And we're also following breaking news out of Israel, where officials say more than 200 rockets have been fired from Gaza towards Israel, injuring 2 Israelis. The Palestinian Ministry of Health says 2 people died, including a baby, after Israel retaliated with airstrikes. Oren Lieberman is near the Gaza border for us. So, Oren, what's happening now?
Federico, over the course of the last 15 minutes or so, we've seen a number, 5 or 6 different launches of rockets from Gaza towards Israel, and those intercepted mostly by Israel's Iron Dome aerial defense system. Some over to my left, quite a number right above our head here, and perhaps we'll see some in the course of the next few minutes. The fighting that started early today at about 10 o'clock local time with a barrage of more than 50 rockets in an hour coming from Gaza into Israel very much continues, and we've seen an escalation throughout the day. Israel says to this point, Hamas and other militant factions inside of Gaza have fired more than 200 rockets towards Israel, hitting a number of targets. Most of those short-range rockets, but some have gone 20 or 25 miles outside of Gaza, indicating a more powerful rocket. Israel says dozens of those rockets have been intercepted by their Iron Dome aerial defense system. Meanwhile, Israel has carried out a series of strikes, hitting more than 30 targets they say are Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad military targets inside of Gaza, including destroying an Islamic Jihad tunnel, cross-border tunnel between Israel and Gaza. In those strikes, the Palestinian Ministry of Health says 2 people were killed, including a 1-year-old baby girl, her pregnant mother critically wounded. This round of fighting that essentially began on Friday afternoon shattered what had been weeks of relative quiet between Israel and Gaza, essentially going back a month here. But during weekly Gaza protests on Friday, Israel says a sniper inside of Gaza wounded 2 Israeli soldiers, one moderately, one lightly. Israel responded by hitting a Hamas military post and, crucially, killing 2 members of Hamas's military wing. And that began what has led us to where we are right now. A day of escalation we've seen, and even if Israel and Hamas say they're not interested in larger fighting, well, fighting is what we're seeing right now. And my producer is flagging something to me behind me, so we're going to take a look. And there was, I think, a launch here that we already lost sight of just given the dark hour. But Frederica, we will very much keep you posted on how kinetic this border is through the course of the evening.
All right, please do. Oren Lieberman, thank you so much. All right, still ahead.
Israel and Palestinian militants in the Gaza Strip have traded heavy rocket fire. Israel says it responded with tank and airstrikes after Palestinian militants fired 150 missiles into Israeli territory. Israel has closed a number of border crossings and says it's attacking Hamas and Islamic Jihad targets. This latest flare-up has seen 5 Palestinians, including at least 2 militants, killed and 2 Israeli soldiers wounded since Friday afternoon. Well, with me now is our World Affairs correspondent John Donnison, who was formerly based in the Middle East. What more can you tell us about this latest events?
Well, it's the most serious flare-up for several months now on the Israel-Gaza border. Today, around about 150 rockets fired out of Gaza. Israel has responded with tank fire, airstrikes, and we know today that at least 1 Palestinian has been killed, according to health officials in Gaza. We've also seen houses damaged on the Israeli side where rockets have crashed into them. A lot of those rockets were shot down. It's always difficult with these escalations to say when did it start, to pick the moment when it started. But yesterday we had these Friday protests on the boundary. We had 2 Israeli soldiers injured when Palestinians opened fire. Then 2 Palestinian militants killed, 2 Palestinian civilians killed. But as I say, the most serious escalation now for several months.
And these Friday protests have been a weekly feature for a long time now, haven't they?
Yeah, and they don't seem to be stopping. From the Palestinian point of view, they are showing their resistance to what they see as Israel's ongoing occupation, the blockade. The Israelis, they say this is rioting. They say they are not going to let people try to break through the fence. From their point of view, they regard Gaza as being no longer occupied. They say, well, they pulled out their military some time ago. The United Nations, of course, regards Gaza as an occupied territory.
Well, and all the while there have been these talks brokered by the UN and Egypt trying to reach some sort of agreement and ceasefire between the two. I thought there was some progress being made on that front.
Well, look, there's progress and then there's a step back. You know, for as long as I've been covering Gaza and Israel, you have these flare-ups, they come and go. Sometimes they become much more serious, like in 2014, which was the last proper war between the two sides. But there are some constants. Look, there is absolutely no prospect of a broader peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Another constant, terrible relations between the Palestinian factions, no unity there. And sadly, it's the people living in Gaza and the Israelis living on that side of the border under rocket fire who are suffering.
Okay, thanks very much. John Donnison, our World Affairs correspondent there.
Escalating attacks between Israel and militants in Gaza have left a Palestinian baby dead. The baby's mother, who's also pregnant, and a third person also killed, and civilians injured on both sides. Officials say more than 200 rockets were fired by militants in Gaza toward Israel today. The Israeli military responding with a wave of airstrikes. CNN's Oren Lieberman is near the border in Gaza, near the Gaza border, I should say. Oren, what's happening now?
On a situation that began deteriorating and escalating some 12 hours ago, right around 10 o'clock this morning. Local time continues in that direction. Over the course of the past 15 or 20 minutes, we've seen another barrage of rocket fire from Gaza into Israel, another round of interceptions from Israel's Iron Dome aerial defense system. Over the course of today, Israel says militant groups in Gaza, including Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, have fired more than 200 rockets from Gaza into Israel. Most have been short-range rockets that have landed near the Gaza periphery, which isn't that far from where we're standing right now. Some have been more powerful rockets that have gone 20, 25 miles towards some bigger Israeli cities in southern Israel. Some Israeli civilians injured from shrapnel from that. Israel has carried out a number of airstrikes, including artillery fire and tank fire, targeting 130 targets, the Israeli military says. In the course of those airstrikes, 3 people have been killed, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health, including a 1-year-old baby girl and her pregnant mother. That's the situation as it stands right now. Israel says they have targeted one larger building, a building they say belongs to Hamas, for military intelligence and general security services. That is a significant step in terms of where this is heading. If there are attempts, and there are attempts, to try to bring both sides back from the cusp of a larger round of fighting and see if it's possible to restore a ceasefire sometime tonight as we head into the evening hours, as we've seen this situation, Anna, deteriorate and escalate throughout the day here.
And Oren, we actually had a chance to capture some video of the rockets being fired from Gaza toward Israel while you were reporting live in a previous live shot. We're looking at that video right now. Are you able to see many of the attacks from your vantage point?
We've seen quite a lot of rocket fire, that coming from northern Gaza, which is roughly where we're positioned right now, getting a view of northern Gaza and I would say central northern Gaza. So we have seen a number of rockets fired. We have seen Israeli airstrikes targeting the buildings inside of Gaza. So we've seen partially how this develops. There have, of course, been strikes as well as rockets fired from southern Gaza. So we've had a vantage point. Those lights twinkling in the background behind me, that is Gaza. So we're fairly close here to the border, and we'll see how this goes. The UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East peace process put out a statement just a short time ago saying the UN and Egypt are working between Israel and Hamas to try to restore a ceasefire. We'll see if and when they're successful.
Okay, Oren Lieberman, thanks for staying on this for us. Do stay safe, my friend. Coming up,